Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 13 mini and compare it against the iPhone 12 and see which specific phone you should go and pick up. Now, funny enough, both these phones are still being sold brand new by Apple. So you can literally just go inside the Apple store and they are sold for the same price tag, $599 for each one. So let's go and see which one's the better one for you. If you want to pick either one of these phones, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off side by side, you can definitely tell that the iPhone 13 mini is the smaller one and the iPhone 12 is the bigger one. The iPhone 12 came out in 2020 and it has a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED panel and it's an overall pretty good screen. I don't really have too much to complain about with this display. I still think it looks really good so many years later. It's a 60 hertz panel, so it's the 13 mini. The notch up top, and overall, it still feels like a very good phone. It still looks like a pretty good phone overall on the front. Funny enough, though, the iPhone 13 mini is almost the same exact styling. However, it is a much smaller display. So you are getting a smaller 5.7-inch Super Retina Extra OLED display on this one, and it looks great. I mean, it's almost the exact same display on the iPhone 12, just smaller. You also do have a little bit of a smaller notch in comparison to the body. So it's still a smaller notch regardless because it's a smaller phone, but it's smaller in diameter or whatever, this way. So I do think that's a pretty cool thing there. Pretty good display still, not too much to complain about, but it is a substantially smaller phone than something like the iPhone, 12. So definitely keep something like that in mind. Now zooming in, we do have this specific the side of these phones. You can see how smaller the iPhone 13 mini is over than the iPhone 12. You have pretty much the same layout of volume buttons, the charging port, everything like that. So there's not too much to kind of complain about there. On the back though, we do have our camera systems. And like I've said, I mean, I do like how the cameras are laid out on these types of phones. There's not a lot to complain about there either. So you have the dual camera setups, you have the Apple logos in the center, full on glass backs on all of them. You have wireless charging on both, and you have the MagSafe charging on both as well. So if you're into that kind of stuff, you still maintain that capability, which is really cool. So I think overall on the outside, there's a ton of overlap. There's not really one area of these phones where I look at it, I'm like, oh my goodness, the iPhone 13 mini is so much better than the 12. Outside wise, if you like a bigger phone, go for the 12. If you like a smaller phone, go for the 13 mini. But it's not always the case because there's a lot of internal changes as well. Now, in terms of software and longevity, this is going to be an area where the iPhone 12 may not be as good as the iPhone 13 mini. Something like the iPhone 12, this phone is probably going to be lasting 1 year less than the 13 mini. So because this phone is 1 year older than the 13 mini, we should expect this phone to last 1 year less. But again, that's not a big deal. Like these phones are still going to be lasting for many years from now. So there's not really too much to complain about there either. Like you're still going to be getting a very, very long supported phone on both these devices for sure. The 13 mini is still going to be here for quite a bit of time. It's not going anywhere anytime soon either. So I think that's some really good stuff for both these phones as well. Now let's go and do a speed comparison between both these devices. The iPhone 13 mini has that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 4 gigabytes of RAM, where the iPhone 12 has that Apple A14 Bionic chip inside of it with 4 gigabytes of RAM as well. So let's go and see which one's the faster one between both. Okay, there we go. All the apps are cleared on the background. 13 mini here, 12 mini or 12 is here. Phone calls 3, 2, 1. Okay, about the same thing. Hopping out of here. Let's do music 3, 2, 1. And this one cannot connect to the Wi-Fi. That's very weird. I don't know why that happened. Let's go and hop out of both these. Let's do their app stores 3, 2, 1. They both should be connected to Wi-Fi, so it's weird that we even got that pop-up. And it's working here. Very weird. iPhone 13 mini was the faster one there. Scrolling through, let's see if one is way slower or way faster than the other one. And it looks like to me that the 13 mini is kind of doing a better job overall. In terms of that, let's go and hop out of this one. Let's do clock 3, 2, 1. But the same thing. Let's do camera 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's go ahead and take a photo 3, 2, 1. Let's go and open up that photo 3, 2, 1. Okay, this one did have that night mode option, so that little like exposure thing, totally okay. Let's go and hop into this one. Photos 3, 2, 1. Let's go and open up that first photo 3, 2, 1. Okay, I guess I kind of messed up too a little bit. Okay, so hopping out of these ones, we have some other third-party applications we can go ahead and open. So let's get those rocking. Let's go and do stack 3, 2, 1. I think the 12 actually may have been a little faster there. Let's do thank you 3, 2, 1. Okay, I think the iPhone 13 mini was the faster one there. Snake vs. Blocks 3, 2, 1. Okay, so this one had another pop-up that came up right there too. Maybe it would have been faster a little bit, who knows? But that did have that pop-up and the other one didn't. Hopping out of this one, let's go and try something like Netflix. 3, 2, 1. About the same thing, hopping out of here. Let's go and do Quizlet, which I do not have. Let's try Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. Now with this type of game, there can be some pop-ups like I just mentioned. So hopefully nothing else pops up. But even with that pop-up, the 13 mini was still the faster one. So I don't know if that pop-up actually had anything to do with the performance of either one of these, probably not. But you can see over and over again that the 13 mini is slightly ahead of the iPhone 12 for a majority of the applications. Now there were some cases where the iPhone 12 was faster, but I think for a majority of apps, like if I was just going through and if I was just using both these apps, I would assume that the iPhone 13 mini is probably going to be the faster one almost every single time. So at the end of the day, I think that's a really good thing that we're getting from the 13 mini. It is the newer phone, it does have the better chipset. So I'd probably argue that the 13 mini is the overall better performing phone than the iPhone 12. So from that perspective, that kind of covers it up from there. Now in the camera department, like I said, dual camera setups on both. They are both wide and ultra wide cameras, and they're almost the exact same setup. 4K at 60 on the front and the back, which is really nice. With the iPhone 12, again, this camera came out in 2020, and I think it overall was a pretty decent lens. I think for a majority of people out there, if you're using something like the iPhone 12, you're still going to have a pretty good camera. You have 0.5x zoom, you have 5x zoom, zooming in all the way, and I think this is a pretty good lens. You have video mode, slow mode, time lapse, you have portrait mode right here, panorama mode. It's a pretty good camera, and I think that in and of itself is a really, really cool thing. If you're getting a decent camera, this is definitely going to be one of those options. And I think, 4K at 60 on the front, I mean, that's some really good stuff that you're getting on something like the iPhone 12. Now, on the iPhone 13 mini, I think this is, a better camera overall. I would say and argue that you're probably getting more camera features on the specific camera as well, because you are getting cinematic mode on the specific phone. Now, cinematic mode is like portrait mode, but for video. And I think that is a really cool thing that you're getting on something like the iPhone 13 mini that you may not be getting on some other devices. So, like I mentioned, I think that in and of itself is really cool. And those types of things end up giving you a better overall experience, I would argue, than something like the iPhone 12, which has the standard camera features. But even then, like I said, this might be the better way to go for a lot of people out there. So, to kind of sum up this video, what I'll tell you is I think the iPhone 13 mini is probably the overall better phone here. Like it's the newer phone is the faster one, but I will say there are still some advantages going up to something like the iPhone 12. Number one, with the iPhone 13 mini, it's the same price as the 12, but you are getting a newer chipset, you're getting a better camera setup, and I think that's kind of it. And you're getting a smaller size, so you might prefer the size for some people. But if you go and step over to something like an iPhone 12, big thing to keep in mind with this type of device is that it is actually, I mean, for one, it's a bigger phone. So some people may actually appreciate that more. Some people may appreciate the like better, it's not a better display, but I do like having the bigger phone overall. You're getting a bigger size battery on this type of phone too. So if that's something you're into, well, you're going to end up getting that bigger size battery, which is really nice. The cameras aren't too far off and the performance is still fairly similar. And you can probably find these cheaper in the used market than the 13 mini. But as of right now, they're the same price. So I'll probably tell you the 12 would probably be the one I would buy, but the 13 mini, still a very, very good phone for sure. So in terms of that, that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.